Hello, this is Davy Mooney coming to you from the University of North Texas, where I run the jazz guitar program. I'm a Benedetto artist, a Sunnyside Records artist, got my new CD live at National Sawdust, check it out. And I got an improv book called Personalizing Jazz Vocabulary from Mel Bay, it's right there. And I wanted to talk about something a little different today. So last semester I was performing at a guitar departmental, playing I think a 26-2 or Conception or something real tricky like that, and I take questions after I perform always, and somebody asked me, how did you get fluent on the neck of the guitar? Like, how did you develop fluency? And I thought, it's an interesting way to put it, and a kind of an apt metaphor, because jazz, if jazz is a language, we're all seeking to be fluent in it, and one aspect of that is just learning your instrument, and the neck of the guitar is it's like a labyrinth, right? And it has its own strange logic, and it's not as intuitive as the piano by any stretch of the imagination. And so, I started thinking back about, how I developed my command of the neck. And one thing that was really important to me, when I was, I think, 12 or 13, I was at a summer jazz camp in New Orleans, and John Eubanks, shout out to John Eubanks, showed me the five, I guess you call them caged positions for the major scale on the guitar. And I remember, and thinking about this video, I sort of went and looked into YouTube and all the videos that are there of people talking about playing the major scales on the neck of the guitar. And it's epic. There's so many different ways to do it, so many fingerings, so many methods. I'm not sure that what I did was the best or the most efficient, and it was just one aspect of my developing my fluency on the instrument. But the ones that I did, and I'll go through them kind of slow or medium, but ignore my 7th string here if you would. So, like down here, if I've got a C major chord, C major 7, I'll do them all in C. It's this kind of deal, so. And I remember the fingering was very important for me to memorize. I don't really use necessarily this particular fingering when I'm using this scale to improvise on or anything like that, but to get it, into my brain, that was important. And then up here, I still C major. And right here. That one was tricky to me because the fingering was very similar to this shape right here. Then this one. I always liked that one because I could go. Anyway, and then this one. And I remember at that camp, we were playing something like So What, some modal tune where, you're in D Dorian for most of the time, D Dorian, which is C major. And after I learned those shapes, and I remember I did it all, I took 2 hours one night, and I sat there and was like, I'm going to memorize this. And I memorized the fingerings. And then the next day, I could play So What, or I fumble my way through So What on the whole neck of the guitar, as opposed to being, confined and basically, the minor pentatonic scale, trying to find, a natural 6th and a 9, and adding to the pentatonic scale that I knew from playing rock music and things like that. So that was a big deal for me. And I remember after that, that gave me a good command of going this way on the neck, but to go this way, I remember studying with with Hank Mackey and him showing me different ways to play the diatonic 7th chords of the major scale with arpeggios. So the idea that, wherever you start on the instrument, so the lowest one in the key of C, if I were down here and started with the 4 chord, like a major 7 arpeggio, and I'm on these middle 3 strings. So I remember doing this. Playing through those arpeggios, ascending and descending on that set of strings, like 4th, 3rd, 2nd, also on the top 3. Even I remember kind of doing it down here. And I would use those shapes, ascending arpeggio shapes, to connect the more what is this way? I always it's sort of vertical, right? Vertical up and down, but then anyway. So I would connect them together so then I could play if I'm playing my so what or my. Kind of just whimsically switching from major scale fingering or major scale shape from one to another, connecting them with those arpeggio shapes. And I don't have a totally systematic way to do it. It's just the little fragments of information that I picked up over the years that have come to lead me to the fluency that I have on the instrument. And so then the next sort of or an important step after that would be like, okay, if I'm just in D Dorian the whole time, I'm in one key area, I'm playing modally, and I've got the whole neck in C, that's one thing. But what if I'm playing over a tune that has a lot of key changes? Like, for instance, I remember learning Have You Met Miss Jones, and having that being a very challenging tune, particularly the bridge of the song, right, which goes, the tune's usually in F, and then the bridge, you'd have like the 4 chord, you have B flat major for a bar, and then a 2-5 to G flat major, and then a 2-5 to D major, a 2-5 back to G flat major, and then a 2-5 to F to get you to the last A section. And so, that's 3 key areas that are very far apart, right? Major thirds apart, kind of like giant steps. And so, I know my major scales on every all over the neck of the guitar, but I don't want to necessarily have to jump 4 frets, a major third every time 4 or 5 frets. The key changes. So what I would practice doing is finding one area of the neck and really trying to stay in the same spot and play over the bridge of Have You Met Miss Jones, or later giant steps and things like that, Conception, without jumping around. And one important principle is I think this quote is attributed to Neil Young, I'm not sure, it's one of those quotes, but the idea that you're always 1 fret away from the right note, that's important too. But you're also 1 fret away from the wrong note, usually. So, like if I were in the middle of the neck right here, if I think like, okay, the first chord is a bridge of Have You Met Miss Jones, so it's a B flat major 7, right? Here's the chord where you could, all different ways to play that chord. Here's that major scale shape. Here's my arpeggio. So I'm pretty good there, right? But I've only got 1 bar before I'm gonna have an A flat minor 7, D flat 7, G flat. So how can I get to that? Well, that's the key of G flat, and right here, using this shape, that's the key of G flat, right? I don't have to take this exact shape and move it all the way down here, although I could do that, of course. But that way I can keep it all in the same spot and do things like then the next is D major, right? Where it's a 2-5 to D major, but it's a D major key area, so. And then back to G flat. And then eventually to F again, which is right next to it too. So, you can. Right, and so I would try to stay in one spot, and then if I felt like it was comfortable there, I'd move to another one. So here, if I've got starting in the key of starting B flat, here's B flat major, here's G flat major, here's D major, right, and then F would be right here, so I can go like, and so on and so forth. I would take it to different areas of the guitar, different 4 or 5 fret blocks, and improvise there. And another aspect of that was very important, in terms of developing fluency, by which I mean, the ability to play really like long lines, eighth notes, and not feel like I have these holes in my playing. I want to put holes in there for phrasing, obviously. But what I used to practice too, just as an exercise, I would practice playing at a slow tempo, just with a metronome, in all eighth notes. And same thing, try to stick to maybe one area of the guitar, try to be kind of systematic about it, but at the same time, that can be a very technical, sort of unmusical sounding thing, just playing all eighth notes like that. So I'd always try to make it as musical and melodic as I could within the parameters. So I'll show you an example of that, at least how it sounds, January 2021. So here you go. This is one chorus of Heavy Memphis Jones, just with the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there you have it. That's what it sounds like, me playing in all eighth notes on Heavy Memphis Jones, January 2021. And I realized that was important to my development, being able to do that. And I suggest that to students if I feel like I detect like a lack of fluency when they're playing over tunes. I encourage them to isolate a part of the neck and try to play in all eighth notes over the song to make sure that they've got the connective tissue and the arpeggios and the scale notes and all of that under their fingers. And I guess one more aspect that this doesn't necessarily address, this helps you get fluid and fluent on the guitar neck, but the jazz language, if we're going to continue that metaphor, consists of more than just arpeggios and scales and things like that. There's chromaticism, altered language, and basically just the whole collection of tropes and musical phrases that have been handed down, from Louis Armstrong and before through Charlie Parker and Charlie Christian, and et cetera, up until the present day. And actually in this book here that I wrote, that kind of, the point of the book was to try to come up with a method, or explain the method that I used to incorporate some actual jazz phrases, and not long elaborate licks, but those little building blocks of the jazz language that you hear in a lot of people's solos, and incorporate those into your improvising. So you feel like you are improvising, not just regurgitating pre-written material, but trying to get that balance between your own improvising and whatever it is you're trying to say, express yourself, and some aspects of the jazz language. So if you're more interested in that, check out this book, Personalizing Jazz Vocabulary. So I'll close it out. I'll play a little bit on the whole tune of Heavy Memphis Jones, and maybe keep an eye out for some of those scale shapes and arpeggios and things. Like I said, it's been I'm trying to reverse engineer how I got to where I am today, and there's been a lot in between. But I definitely remember those cage positions, those arpeggio shapes, playing in all eighth notes, and that helped me a lot. All right, hope you enjoy it.
Thank you.